What if the safety net you never actually asked for is quietly the exact thing draining your retirement income right now? Think about that for a moment. Not a bad investment decision, not a market downturn, not anything you consciously chose, something that's been sitting inside your super account, working against you in the background this entire time, while you've been assuming everything in there is just quietly growing the way it's supposed to. Here's a scene that plays out constantly across this country. Someone logs into their super account once a year, maybe less, glances at the total balance, feels reasonably okay about it, and logs straight back out. They never open the insurance tab. They never check whether they've got one super account or 4. They never ask whether the investment option they're sitting in still makes sense for where they are in life. It's the classic set and forget approach, and on the surface, it feels responsible. In reality, for a huge number of Australians, it's quietly costing them tens of thousands of dollars they'll never see, and most people have no idea it's even happening. Today, on RetireScope AU, I'm going to walk you through 3 specific traps sitting inside a lot of Australian super accounts right now, exactly how they drain your future income without you noticing, and precisely what to do about each one, most of which takes less time than you'd expect. Before I get into these 3 traps, if this is genuinely useful to you, hit like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who hasn't properly looked at their super account in years. Honestly, that's most people, and this one could be worth real money to them. Let's start with the first trap, and it's probably the most common one because it happens almost by accident. Multiple super accounts. Think about how most people's working lives actually go. You start a job in your early 20s, your employer sets you up with whatever default super fund they use. A few years later, you move jobs, and instead of rolling your existing super across, a new account gets opened with the new employer's fund. Maybe this happens again a few years after that. Nobody sits down and decides to have 3 or 4 super accounts on purpose. It just kind of happens as a side effect of changing jobs without cleaning up after yourself. According to data cited by MetLife Australia, based on findings from the Productivity Commission, roughly 4 million Australian workers currently hold more than one super account. 4 million. Each one of those extra accounts comes with its own administration fees and investment fees, sitting there quietly year after year, whether you're actively using that account or not. Here's the thing about fees like this. They never feel dramatic in the moment. Nobody's phone buzzes with an alert saying, "You just lost money today." It's a slow, invisible leak, and that's exactly what makes it dangerous. According to the Australian Retirement Trust, paying just an extra 0.05% per year in fees during your working life could reduce your final retirement savings by as much as $100,000. Let that sink in for a second. Not a poor investment choice, not a market crash. Just an extra 0.5 percentage point in fees, quietly compounding against you for decades. And here's the part that really gets me. It's not just about paying fees twice. It's about losing visibility over your own money. When your super is spread across a few accounts, you don't have one clear picture of where you actually stand. You've got different statements, different performance numbers, different fee structures, and it becomes genuinely harder to make good decisions about any of it, simply because you can't see the whole board at once. And fees are just the first layer of this. The second trap is something that most people don't even realize they're paying for at all. This one is insurance. Specifically, the insurance that comes bundled inside your super account, whether you asked for it or not. Here's how this typically works. When you're auto-enrolled into a super fund, most funds automatically attach a default level of insurance to your account. Usually some combination of life cover, total and permanent disability cover, and income protection. You didn't sit down with an advisor and choose these amounts. It happened automatically in the background as part of joining the fund. According to the Productivity Commission, the average default insurance premium runs at roughly $300 a year, though for some members it can climb as high as $2,000 annually. And here's where it becomes a genuinely serious issue for your retirement, not just your day-to-day budget. According to MetLife Australia, these premiums, taken together with the compounding growth you miss out on because that money is gone rather than invested, can reduce your final super balance by as much as 14% over a working life. There's also something the Productivity Commission actually gave a name to, which I think is worth knowing, called zombie insurance. If you've got multiple super accounts, which we just talked about, there's a real chance you're also paying for multiple insurance policies at the same time. The problem is, in most cases, you can genuinely only claim through one policy, even if you're paying premiums on several. So you could be paying for insurance cover you can never actually use in full, without knowing it. Here's a real example that I think captures this perfectly. A financial advisor named Christopher Hall, who's reviewed hundreds of these policies professionally, described a client who genuinely believed they held $500,000 in total and permanent disability covered through their super. When they actually sat down and reviewed the paperwork properly, the real figure was $36,000, not a rounding error. a completely different number to what the person had been assuming their entire working life. I want to be fair here, because insurance inside super isn't automatically a bad thing. For plenty of people, particularly those with a mortgage, dependents, or a physically demanding job, that default cover genuinely provides real value and real peace of mind. The problem isn't insurance itself. The problem is not knowing what you actually have, what it costs you, and whether it still matches your actual life circumstances. And here's something that just changed in 2026 that shows even the super funds themselves are quietly admitting this exact problem is real. From the 28th of February 2026, Australian Super, one of the country's largest funds, announced it was reducing its default income protection cover down to $1,000 a month. The reasoning behind it is genuinely worth understanding. A lot of members, particularly those earning under $25,000 a year, had default cover that was actually higher than their entire annual income, which means they were paying higher premiums for a benefit that could never actually pay out more than a percentage of what they earned in the first place. Overinsurance, in other words, quietly eroding their retirement savings for no real additional protection. I think this matters for two reasons. First, it shows that even the biggest funds in the country recognize this has been a genuine, widespread problem. But second, and this is important, it's a change from one specific fund. If you're with a different provider, nobody is automatically fixing this for you. You still need to go and check your own account because the responsibility to notice and act on this still sits with you. So 2 of the 3 traps are about money quietly leaving your account through fees and insurance premiums. The third one is a bit different. It's about your money not growing the way it actually should in the first place. This is the default investment option trap. When you join a super fund and don't actively choose an investment strategy, you're automatically placed into what's called a My Super product, generally a balanced or moderate mix of growth and defensive assets. For a lot of people, at a lot of life stages, that's a completely reasonable, sensible option. But it isn't automatically right for everyone, and the issue is that most people never go back and actually check. Think about someone in their late 20s or early 30s, decades away from retirement, sitting in a conservative or balanced default option, because that's simply where they landed when their very first job set up their super account. Over several decades, a more growth-focused option could make a genuinely significant difference to their final balance, purely because they have the time to ride out the ups and downs along the way. And on the flip side, someone much closer to retirement, still sitting in an overly aggressive growth option purely by default, might be carrying more risk than actually makes sense for where they are in life. Either direction, the point is the same. Nobody actively chose it. It just happened by default, and it's never been reviewed since. So now that you know what's actually happening across these 3 areas, let's talk about exactly how you fix all 3. And honestly, none of this takes anywhere near as long as people assume. The first fix is consolidating your super accounts if you've got more than one. The easiest way to check is through MyGov. Log in, go to the ATO section, then Super, then Manage, and look for Find Lost Super. This will show you every super account currently linked to your name, including any the ATO is already holding on your behalf. There are genuinely billions of dollars in unclaimed super sitting with the ATO right now, waiting for people to come and claim it. From there, you can choose to consolidate everything into a single fund, which immediately stops you paying duplicate administration and investment fees going forward. The second fix is properly reviewing your insurance. Log into your super account and look for the Insurance tab. If it's not obviously listed there, check the Transactions section of your account instead. Insurance premiums are usually debited regularly, sometimes itemized separately by cover type. Once you've found the actual numbers, ask yourself 3 honest questions. Do I actually need this cover? Is the amount roughly right for my situation, my mortgage, my dependents, my income? And am I paying for this same type of cover more than once across multiple accounts? If the answer suggests you're overpaying or holding cover you genuinely don't need, most funds let you adjust or cancel it directly through your online account, or with a quick phone call. The third fix is checking your investment option. Log in and see exactly which option you're currently sitting in, and ask your fund directly whether it still aligns with your age, your goals, and how comfortable you actually are with risk. This isn't something that needs to happen every month, but going years. Sometimes an entire working life without ever checking is genuinely common, and it's worth breaking that pattern with one proper review. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. None of these 3 traps involve anything dramatic. There's no scandal, no market crash, no single bad decision you can point to. It's simply what happens when something as important as your retirement savings gets treated as something you set up once and never look at again. And I think that's genuinely the core issue here. Super is designed to run quietly in the background, which is exactly why it becomes so easy to forget about, and exactly why these traps are able to sit there for years without anyone noticing. The good news is that fixing all three of these things is free, and none of it takes very long. It just requires actually looking. That's the entire reason RetireScope AU exists, to make sure Australians know what to actually check before years pass, and the cost of not checking quietly adds up. I want to hear from you on this one. Drop a comment below and tell me, did you already know you had insurance inside your super, or how many super accounts you actually have? I'm genuinely curious how many people are finding this out for the first time today, because I suspect it's a lot of you. And if you know someone who hasn't properly looked at their super account in years, send them this video. It might genuinely be the most valuable 10 minutes they spend all year. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.